Bill Maher's critique of the No Kings protest attendance. 1. The context. The No Kings protest. The No Kings protest, sometimes referred to in media as No Kings Day rallies, was a series of anti-government demonstrations that took place across the U.S. These protests were typically organized by progressive or anti-Trump groups and were aimed at challenging the policies and authority of the then-current administration. Goals. The rallies often coalesced around issues like immigration policy, anti-ICE, military spending, protesting the military parade, and general opposition to executive overreach. The idea that the president was acting like an unchecked king. Demographics. Media coverage and observations of these particular protests often noted that the vast majority of attendees appeared to be white, educated, and generally affluent liberals or progressives. This demographic composition is the central focus of Bill Maher's commentary. 2. Maher's direct commentary. During his show, Real Time with Bill Maher, the host addressed the apparent demographic imbalance in the No Kings protest as part of his New Rules segment or a panel discussion. His point was a direct critique aimed at what he perceived as a disconnect between the political issues being protested and the people most impacted by them. The question Maher asked, in essence, why there was a noticeable lack of attendance from Black and other minority communities at a protest focused on opposing what many see as an oppressive or authoritarian regime, which historically has a disproportionate impact on those groups. The observation he called the protest very white, which led to the core question if this movement is genuinely about fighting oppression and social injustice. Why weren't the people with the longest history of fighting oppression and who face the most systemic challenges present in larger numbers? The implied critique. Maher's question implied that the nature of the protest, its messaging, or its organizers might have alienated or simply failed to mobilize minority communities, suggesting it felt more like a culture war or an ideological battle for certain white liberals rather than a broad-based, urgent social justice movement. 3. The underlying rationale and controversy. Maher's comment stirred significant debate, as it touches on a sensitive point within political activism: the intersection of race, class, and political engagement. Class/economic factor. Some commentators and analysts argue that large, spontaneous protests tend to be dominated by people who have the economic freedom and leisure time to participate, often those who are employed in flexible or white-collar jobs, which tend to be disproportionately white. For many working-class Black and minority individuals, taking time off work to protest is not a financial option. Racial trust and focus. Critics of the No Kings and similar protests pointed out that while the goals were broadly anti-administration, they may not have aligned with the immediate, prioritized issues of Black activism, such as police brutality, voting rights, or economic inequality. For many Black activists, attending a rally focused on No Kings may have felt less relevant or impactful than focusing on specific, community-based racial justice efforts. Maher's history. Maher, who has a history of controversial comments on race, was scrutinized for being the one to raise the question. Critics argued that his focus on Black attendance deflected from the white organizers' responsibility to build truly multiracial coalitions, or that he was simplistically questioning Black political priorities. Supporters, however, saw it as a valid challenge to white liberalism's tendency to stage protests that appeal primarily to themselves. The broader theme. Maher's point ultimately boils down to a question about authenticity and coalition building in progressive politics. Is a protest truly effective in challenging systemic oppression if it doesn't represent the people historically and currently at the center of that oppression? 4. Conclusion and aftermath. Maher's question served its usual purpose: to spark debate. While it was criticized for its bluntness and for placing the focus on the absence of one group rather than the failure of the organizing body, it did highlight a recognized challenge in modern political movements: the difficulty of uniting diverse socioeconomic and racial groups under a common banner. The discussion underscored the fact that different communities may have different political priorities and different capacities for street-level activism.